This morning, time for us to turn our attention to what you should be watching this weekend. Sue Murphy, good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, how are you guys?
How is Let's Go Back To getting on?
Pretty well. Thanks for joining us last week. I actually went back to The Sopranos after that, after Pine Barrens, and I think we were a bit spoiled with The Sopranos and didn't realise how good it was. That was my, when you watch the first episode, you're like, this is just perfect TV, and I never realised how amazing it was because I was in the middle of it. So, yeah, thanks for the Pine Barrens revisit.
So that's this week's episode of Let's Go Back To, which is available on the Go Loud podcast network and also other places. But that's the best place to get it. And every week you're doing an episode where you pick good TV, good movies that people will have seen or maybe not seen. And you in the middle of us doing that, were like, oh, I've never rewatched The Sopranos. I've never watched the last episode. I was like, what? Go back and watch the whole thing now. It's amazing. So
I still haven't seen the last episode, but I made the decision that I can't just watch the last episode.
No, you're right.
I'm just going to have to go back to the start and watch the whole thing again. But it's fine. Actually, my husband was at a wedding, so I was on my own for hours the weekend with a baby asleep, and I was like, I'm going to watch The Sopranos. And it was the best use of my time. Because a lot of the time I'm watching new TV, I don't get time to go back and watch old stuff. But it was just such a lovely thing to sit back and watch again.
New TV can be overrated as well.
Yeah.
That's just, there's too much of it. It's not as good as it used to be. I mean, I realise I sound like an old man shouting at cloud here, but, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Go back.
No, it is really hard to go back and watch stuff. Like, I watch about, so say for a slot like this, I'd watch about 4 or 5 hours of TV, new TV, a week. So when you're watching that amount and you have a child and you have a full-time job, it's actually hard to go back and just sit with something that you really like, which is The Sopranos.
But it's the right thing to do. How is your watch? It's not a rewatch, Owen, it's the first watch.
I'm Sopranos.
Yeah.
I'm done a long time ago.
Right, you finished.
Long time ago, yeah. That was like well before we recorded that episode of Pine Barrens. Yeah, it was just perfect. Enjoyed every minute of it. I think I'll get more joy out of the rewatch though when I get around to that at some point.
You can do it once a year. It turns out it like at least once every 18 months you're allowed to do it, and it gets better and better and better and better and better.
There are some other things I want to do with my life as well, as like being linked to The Sopranos.
You have a life, I don't.
Infinity loop that you seem to be in. How many times have you rewatched it? Sure.
Three.
Three's not bad.
Two rewatches and the original watch. Okay. But I'm actually at some point, when we get bored of everything else, I'm looking forward to go back and do it again because there's just there's so much magic in it. Anyway, new and shiny this week in this slot, Sue.
Yes, the Naomi Osaka doc is out this week. It's on Friday on Netflix. It's a 3-parter. It's directed by Gareth Bradley, who was behind the Time documentary, but that was nominated for an Oscar this year. And it's shot before any of the French Open stuff had happened and before she withdrew from French Open and from Wimbledon. So you're watching it with knowing that has happened, which is a bit of a strange experience because obviously we know a lot about Naomi Osaka now, but watching it at the time, you probably would on the first episode think this is actually a really vulnerable, fragile woman. It's quite difficult to watch her. She's not comfortable with fame. She's not comfortable with letting people into her life. She's quite quiet. She's quite withdrawn. She talks at length about how when she was a kid, she used to play for 8 hours a day on a court from a very young age. Like she was playing tennis when she was 3. You get the impression that her parents were very much behind the motivation for her to play tennis. She talks about how, if I'm not a tennis star, what am I in my life? She just seems in that first episode, without the French Open stuff, a really lost individual who is depending on tennis for her existence, for her entire, who it determines who she is in life. And I found it a very difficult watch. I haven't watched the other 2 episodes yet, I just watched the first one. And I actually had to take a bit of a break because it was like, someone needs to just give that girl a hug. Like there's one stage where they perfectly put her doing this kind of ad campaign for one of her sponsors, where she's got a lot of makeup on and the hair is done and amazing clothes. And then the next thing is her in full Japanese outfit when she's doing a visit to Japan. And the pressure on this girl, it really raises the questions about what do we expect from athletes as an audience? Do we expect them to be role models? Do we expect them to be out in front of the media and public figures? Or do we just want them to play the sport? And I think if she had the choice, from what I saw from that first episode, she definitely wants to just play the sport. It is a kind of a depressing watch, I have to say. And
who's advising her to do all this stuff? Like, what's the impetus behind that pressure? Like, why can't she not just do her, if she doesn't want to do the commercial stuff associated with the commercial things, don't take the contracts? Like, is there someone, or are they just trying to cash in and make as much money as they all can now while she's in her peak?
Yeah, and it kind of hints at that, because at one stage she says that the reason she went, like, one of the reasons she went dim is because if I'm not going to be a champion, then my family were going to be poor. And you feel like the weight of the pressure of looking after her family weighs very heavy on her. And she talks about her parents. Her father is from Haiti, her mother's from Japan. And she was saying that they basically had made a decision before she was born that they wanted children that were tennis stars. That's a lot of pressure to put on a young child, you know.
It is, like, it really is, and all the, you know, we see the issues of tiger parenting that tennis players in particular have had. But like the Tiger Woods story, you know, I don't think anybody could watch the Tiger Woods documentary and think that there wasn't something lost in the trade-off between the creation of the sports star and the creation of the human being. I don't know what Agassi and Graf think about now. Was it worthwhile as they ended up, like,
well, that's it. Like, will you ever be sports stars without someone pushing you from behind? I don't know is the answer, but I definitely feel like I was thinking about it in relation to the entertainment industry, because I think when you get to a certain point in the entertainment industry, you don't have to do anything anymore. You basically you can pick and choose what you want to do. It doesn't seem to feel like it's the same in sport. It very much feels like you have to play the game. You have to be this media person. You have to do these media appearances. And for her to actually put up her hand and say, I'm suffering really badly here, I can't do these, was an extreme scenario for that to happen. So I like, if you're looking at health of a player, like, you have to include mental health, and hers is clearly suffering from what she has to go through. It's a very interesting documentary for anyone who's interested in sport, and that extra kind of layer of what do we expect from people who play at this high level, you know.
Okay, Heist on Netflix as well.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I like thinking back about it, because I've watched the first 2 episodes of this, and thinking back about it, I'm kind of like, the documentary isn't brilliant, but the stories are amazing. The stories they've managed to pick up are really, really good. The first one is about a girl who stole 3.5 million out of Las Vegas and was on the run for 13 years afterwards, which is sort of an achievement. And it's brilliant because it's told from her point of view. Her name is Heather. She tells the whole story about how she met this guy and she fell in love, and they decided they were going to rob Las Vegas. He's a career criminal. He'd served time before for murder. And she was like, you don't really see that when you're with somebody. You're kind of just in love with someone. You're like, okay,
stand-up guy.
A murderer. That's pretty serious. But it's very interesting how they put the whole heist together, because I think when you watch those kind of films like Ocean's 11 and stuff like that, you're like, that can't really happen in real life. Somebody can't really get away with something like that. Like, security in Las Vegas is too good. Well, she was really smart, and she outsmarted them.
Have you watched Money Heist?
No, I haven't actually. And there's a few people in the office obsessed with it.
Money Heist is great.
Yeah.
Neymar's the Money Heist.
Is he?
Yeah. Neil Tracy is a mad Money Heist fan.
Money Heist is excellent, really excellent. It's good for your Spanish as well. So Heist on Netflix is a documentary series.
Yes, there's 6 episodes, and it's kind of, each heist is told over 2 different episodes.
Okay, so 3 heists told over 6 episodes. Okay.
Yeah.
And you're recommending it?
Yeah, like, I mean, like I said, the documentary film isn't great, but the stories are really, really good. Like, at the end of the first episode, she says, you know, when you're standing there and you have all this money and there's a guy holding a gun and you have to go on the run, you realize your life has changed forever, and you're like, well, now I'm going to have to watch the next episode to find out what happens. So they are good stories, you know. Okay,
and if you missed it, This Way Up is this week's, if you missed it.
Yeah, so like season 1 is all on all 4 now, and season 2 just came out last night. So that's Aisling Bea. She's creator, writer, and stars in this as Anya, who's kind of like, I felt like her character at the start, I was like, oh God, like, she's a bit too much. She's kind of in your face and she just wants to make a joke out of everything. And then you realize that she's actually quite a broken individual on the inside and has had a pretty serious breakdown. Her sister is Shona, who's played by Sharon Horgan, and the two of them just bounce off each other so well. But it's her recovery. It's her trying to get back to normal, to have a life, to have a boyfriend, to have a good job, just to get on with things. But it's funny, peppered with this you know, you see moments where she's in bed by herself and she's just really thinking about everything that's happened. She ends up checking into a rehab clinic again at one point across the first season. It's kind of, it hits you in the stomach in parts where you're not expecting it. And I just really liked the it's very Irish in parts, which is actually kind of nice. But I really liked the, you know, so you think somebody's fine from the outside, but really she was a broken mess in the inside. And it's a nice watch. It's just 20 minutes. I think there's about 12 episodes across the 2 series, and they're all up on all 4 now.
Okay, good stuff. Sue, thanks a million. Cheers.
No worries. Thank you.
What's this week's episode edition after me?
Oh, sorry, Shrine of Duty. So the guys in Shrine of Duty go and we look back at Line of Duty and their favourite episode of Line of Duty. Very good. It's time to start talking about Line of Duty again.
Okay, all right, good stuff. Let's Get Back To is available on all.
Let's Go Back To, yeah.
Let's Go Back To is available on all
words.
Good podcast places. Best place to get it is Go Loud. 9:33 this morning.